This episode of the Oh No 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 podcast is sponsored by Dynamic Industrial Services, the rope access specialists. The roof of the South Stand at Starch Park is some 19 metres above the pitch, the same height as 11 Aidan Connolly's. But as we all know, there's only one Aidan Connolly, and so you'd be much better off with Dynamic Industrial Services. DIS specialise in working at height, offering a range of services including maintenance, inspection and repair. To find out more, visit dynamicindustrialservices.co.uk.
Look at the stars, look how they shone for you. It was all yellow in Dingwall on Sunday, but by 2 p.m. the Rovers had returned to a much more familiar blue. Ross County were on devastatingly clinical form as they added 4 more to their 2-1 first leg lead, comfortably securing their Premiership place in the end and consigning the Rovers to another season in the Championship. Despite the disappointment of the afternoon, the overall mood in the away end was one of appreciation and optimism, with plans already falling into place to go one step further in season 2024-25. This is the Oh No 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 podcast. I am Duncan Cameron, and for the last episode in our regular schedule for this season, I am joined by, I've got Graeme Meldrum. First of all, how are you, Graeme?
I'm fine. I'm full of birthday-cared pish for this episode.
Good. I don't know if you saw Andy Barrowman said the same thing in his interview with the Courier, except he timed it up slightly. He said, birthday card nonsense, which I like just as much. We've also got Callum Blythe. How are you, Callum?
In the words of Bob Marley, don't worry about a thing.
Absolutely. And we also have our very own jet setter. We've got Carol Allison Smith. How are you, Carol?
6,000 kilometres round trip, but I loved every minute. My nail polish might be chipped, but my love for the Rovers is not. And that was so cliche.
It was a little bit, although I'm not convinced we could have really called that a nail biter at any point over that. I would have loved to have done, but yeah, probably not in the end. Now, I don't think there's any great desire from us or from anyone who's listening to go through a kind of blow by blow for a game that we lost 4-0. So let's maybe just tackle this one on more of a kind of general level. We'll stick relatively close to the game, but obviously I think naturally we'll lapse into a bit of review and probably a bit of looking forward as well. But Graeme, sticking to this kind of 90 minutes, at least for the beginning, did you think that 4-0 was a fair reflection on that one?
It's quite funny how it's 27 years since we were last in the Premier League, so what was that, 29 since we were first in? Was it 29? 30? It reminded me of the first season in the Premier League, how we played really, really well. Looked as though we were going to do something, we lost a goal. We regrouped, we played really well again, and we lost another goal. I remember being at Airdrie, Fir Park, places like that, coming away, gubbed 4-1 on paper, and thinking, we played really well. And it was almost as if, and it's really cliche and it's really shit and it doesn't actually happen, but you pick the ginger-haired striker at one team and plonk him into ours, different game. But it just reminded me of that first time we were up there. And I think it showed that we have really good championship level players, but who are streetwise at championship level, but aren't streetwise at Premiership level or Premier League level, whatever we call them now. And I think that was the difference. Just a wee step. I think if we look forward, I think we maybe need to get a wee bit more top league experience in the team, which I think is what was missing. There was a wee bit of guile, a wee bit of smartness. See that wee Conor Randall, I could have booted him up and down the park all day quite willingly. He's a little arse. I would have great pleasure in that. But it's end of the day, they were better than us, better players, and that's what it comes down to. But I don't think we disgraced ourselves. I don't think 4-0 was a fair reflection.
Yeah, I know what you mean about the kind of street wiseness, street wisdom. I think I've stumbled over that before on this podcast. I mean, first half, Ross County had 9 fouls. We had 1, and there's yeah, exactly. There's more to being clever than committing fouls, but there was so much of that was just like disruption, little bits and pieces, where it's like you lose a 50-50 in the middle of the park and just kick them. But it's like you kick them before it can develop into anything, so you don't get the booking. And that's where I think and don't get me wrong, I don't think Ross County were particularly cynical or particularly kind of brutal about it. But at the same time, I do think there was an awareness to it where it's like, look, we can commit these 9 fouls in the first half and not get booked. I was going daft about it by half time. Absolutely daft. I don't actually even know if the rules allow for this or not, but the kind of persistent fouling that you can throw at an individual, where the referee will be like, you commit the same foul 3 times, you're getting booked for that. I think just should apply to full teams. If you continually just keep kicking folk over in the midfield, I don't care if it's your first one, it should be a case of, I've had enough of this.
If you think back to the first leg of the semi-final, the referee had a word with Thistle for booting the ball away. And it was Lewis Nielsen who kicked it maybe a yard. Yes. And he was the one that got the yellow card for it, whereas others had been guilty of it before. So I think it comes down to the referee and how they want to manage the game.
Yeah, and I think that there's an element of it as well of adapting to the referee, but that's very difficult in a one game or there's 2 different referees. Well, a 2-legged tie. Callum, for you, so Graeme's saying 4-0 probably an unfair reflection on that game in itself. Do you think 6-1 over the 2 legs maybe a slightly fairer reflection?
Probably. Like, let's face it, it's like the way that Ross County played. You just think. I was thinking to myself, in the first game, I was just thinking, how has this team finished 11th? How bad was Derek Adams and Malky Mackay to get this team to finish 11th? Because the thing is, it's like, if we had got, of course, this is like ifs and maybes, you know how it goes. But it's like, if we had got St Johnstone, we were not losing 6-1 to St Johnstone. But it's like that team, it's like Jan Danda should not be in a relegation playoff. Simon Murray should not be in a relegation playoff. As much as I hate the ginger prick, he is a very good player. It's like, it's a complete mismatch. Of course, like, you do have people saying, is this really the gap between Premiership and Championship teams? But the thing is, it's like we've seen in cup competitions over a single game, there isn't. But it just depends on the team, really. It just depends on the day.
Yeah, it's an old, I don't know, kind of talking point or theoretical exercise that I go back to a lot. But if you played that tie like 1,000 times, Ross County are going to win it. They're going to win 600, 700 plus of them. I think that is clear. But I think it's not so many of them that finish with like a 5-goal gap. If you played that second leg 1,000 times, that doesn't finish 4-0 very often.
Yeah, that game was not a 4-0 game. No way. It wasn't even a 1-0 game to Ross County in the first half. It's like first, up until their goal, which their goal pretty much came out with nothing. Like, they never really threatened us, whereas like we were a lot more proactive going forward than them. We had a lot more opportunities. And it's like, even like the last 15, 20 minutes, it's like, how we did not score was beyond me. It's like Ross Laidlaw made a couple made some really, really good saves to keep
I think
to keep a clean sheet.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but I think that's a really good point. It ties into something you just said as well, about Ross Laidlaw, about Simon Murray, about Jan Danda, Jordan White as well. These are all guys who, at different times this season, have either gone missing in the case of Jan Danda or been like actively terrible in the case of Ross Laidlaw. And I think you probably have to credit Don Cowie for not only what he's done when he's come in, but focusing the minds or whatever it's taken in those games. That those guys were all, ranged between good to very excellent over those two games in different spells, and that's what you need ultimately, as you would in a cup game, as you do in a playoff. You need your big players to turn up, and I think Ross Laidlaw was a very good example of that, where he basically didn't have an awful lot to do across the two games. But then in that final period, really when he started getting involved, it was already too late. But if even the first of those big chances goes in, it could be a different question. But he just gave us no encouragement in that second game at all. Unlike in the first one, when he kind of dropped that cross and you thought, could be something to get out here. But just very, very clinical as well, obviously. You look at the kind of the stats after the game, Roar's got more shots on target, more possession, without wanting to be Craig Brown about it, more corners. I think the only thing they did beat us at was goals and fouls given away. But fundamentally, that's how they did it, and that's fine. And none of us are saying it was 4-0 and undeserved or anything like that. If you take your chances, you deserve it. But it was funny. It wasn't funny at all, but it was interesting at full time that I didn't really see or hear anybody who was kind of kicking off about it, which I don't think is a given. I think that there's quite a lot of scenarios where you go away and get beat 4-0, even on whatever occasion, and people still get pissed off about it. And I just didn't really see that. I think there was a fairly widespread recognition that this wasn't a 4-0 game, despite the fact that it finished 4-0. Carol, there's been a fair bit of discussion around about, kind of before and after this game, about the playoffs in general and the way that they're structured and the argument of whether or not there's sort of an inherent bias in the way that the playoffs are structured. Do you feel that way about it? Or do you think that fundamentally it's just a reality of playing a team from a higher division?
No, I'm going to go on a bit of a rant. I think it is structured to keep the big team up, just in case. You never know. The two ugly sisters might screw up and slip down, and we can't have them dropping down. So anything to protect them, because you never know. In the Spanish league, so for example, Espanyol, the other team in Barcelona, didn't succeed at the weekend to get automatic playoffs, so automatic promotion. So they've gone into the playoffs. And what happens there is third plays sixth in a semi-final and fourth plays fifth. And after that, they go into a final and then they go up. Because the understanding is that it's such a massive difference. Just in TV money, for example, Las Palmas, when they got promoted last year, we're talking 50 million in TV money. I mean, that's a massive amount of money. So to make it fair, and also to make the final interesting in the second league, it's a 50 million final. But it's geared so that another team come up. So two come down, I think 2 or 3 come down, and then one goes up after this playoff final. In the lower leagues, where it splits off into the divisional leagues, so the other team that I support is San Andreu. They won their first playoff league, and then when they went to their away league, the other team, Zamora, they got two goals back, so it was 2-2 in aggregate. It went to extra time. It did not go to penalties, because after that, it's calculated on which team performed best in the league, to which, unfortunately, it went to Zamora. So it's all about having it equal at the playoff level, which I think it is. And also VAR, let's not get started on VAR. You don't play with it all season. That is an advantage. You know how it works. If you're a defender and you've been caught out 3 or 4 times, you're a little bit more cautious. There is no way that was a penalty with you, Murray, until it went back onto VAR and the ref was left with no choice. Whereas if you're used to that, you're not going to get yourself into that position. You're going to step back. So yeah, structure-wise... Sorry.
No, I was going to say, it's the structure part of it that I find really interesting, because I think that's where I think the argument stands up more. So that because you hear people saying stuff about the kind of requisite schedules that both teams have, but we had an extra couple of days rest over county. I think everybody was playing football prior to that, except us. County had big games to try and stay up. Airdrie and Thistle were playing games, but we then got a wee break, and it was fine. But the structural part, I think, is a much more interesting argument.
It also means your squad structure is the same. You're not competing with a squad of 35, 40 players.
So this is the thing. Yeah, this is the thing for me, is when you look at the success rates of your teams in the Premiership in the playoffs versus teams from lower down. So I think it's Germany or one of the other ones where they have the kind of same thing that we do, where it's not the Spanish model, it's the team from the Bundesliga has the opportunity to kind of save their own skin. They have had that for the last 16 seasons, and the Bundesliga side has won 13 of them, which is, I've not got the numbers for Scotland in front of me, weirdly, but it's roughly the same. The Premiership side has a very good success rate over the rest. And this is, to your point, Carol, I don't think that's because of the games you've played in the 4 weeks before. I think fundamentally it's, you look at the Ross County side and the Rovers side, albeit with some tweaks in January, they were built for entirely different levels. So you've built a Premiership side on a Premiership budget, players who are good enough on merit to play in the Premiership, and that's their target, versus guys who are for the Championship. So what it means is that, of course, it's going to be an underdog type scenario. It's just always going to be that. Short of a slightly freakish situation where, for example, if we picked Dundee United to the title, because Dundee United side, I think you could argue, was a kind of Premiership budget, but by and large, that's the way it's going to be. And I think that is, I think if you want to have the argument, I think the argument is the one that you've made. It's, well, actually, you shouldn't have a Premiership team in the playoffs at all. It should be about promotion playoffs. It shouldn't be a reprieve for a team that's been poor all season.
And quite frankly, if you fucked up the Premiership, you deserve to come down. Excuse my language. But that is you've screwed up. You have lost. Maybe not in Ross County's case, because I think they did turn when they beat Rangers. But you have not done your best all season for whatever reason. You deserve to come down. Rovers did really blimmin' well. You deserve to be playing on a level playing field, pun intended, to come up. Let me loose at the SFA.
Trust me, I want to go loose at the SFA, because when it comes to these playoffs, I think the issue probably is the fact that when it comes to these promotion relegation playoffs, it can't really be too up and too down, just due to the size of the leagues, because it's...
Well, 12, surprise, increase the size of the league!
I know, it's like, trust me, I've been wanting league reconstruction for a while. I'm sick of playing Greenock Morton and whoever else for 4 times a season. But it's like, as long as it's 12 teams and then 10 for like the lower leagues, we're not going to get too up, too down, because if we were to have, a 14 playoff, a 14 promotion playoff, that means 5th in the Championship gets up. Who finished 5th? Was it Dunfermline?
No, it was either Ayr or Morton, I think.
Oh, but would you not like them to see get gubbed in the Premiership if they did?
Beating them another 2 times. Imagine beating them 7 times in the season as we get promoted. That would be very, very funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think to be fair, I think this is one of these perpetual conversations that at a certain point just becomes a bit boring, effectively.
Yeah,
but it's the best idea I've heard actually was one that Leslie mentioned they do in Italy, where there's effectively cut-offs for. If you finish far enough ahead of someone else, then that other team doesn't get into the playoffs. I like that idea. It was the first time I'd heard it, because I recognise it. I think it was Blair who'd said, fundamentally, you finish fourth in a 10-team league. That's mid-table. But, if second, third and fourth are all within 2 points of each other, then I like that there's a more kind of dynamic element to it where, you're rewarding the teams that have done the best over the season rather than being relatively arbitrary based on placings. And I don't particularly like that a team can be poor all season and then have, 2 games to save themselves. But getting away from that a little bit, we'll put it, if somebody wants to chair a full episode on league reconstruction, you can have at it, but I'll not be here.
We could have PowerPoints and displays and Excels, and we could get the whole thing done.
Yeah, and you guys can knock yourselves out.
Who wants to appeal my channel?
I'm going to go back and listen to another 2.5 hours of the Cali Thistle podcast. Graeme, come back to you. Feel free to chip in on any of those points that we've been through there. But also to kind of come back to this game, you mentioned obviously Simon Murray already. If you swap him into the Rovers side, you're maybe looking at a different outcome. But kind of on that theme, do you think that was the main difference? Was it just finishing, or were there other kind of key differences between the two sides over those 2 legs?
I think the first game we got our tactics wrong. Now, I remember listening to Ian Murray after the Partick Thistle game, and he said he was going to Fir Park.
Yes.
To watch Motherwell St Johnstone. So I don't know who went to Dingwall, but the difference between the tactics in the first game and the second game was massive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. First game, if you're playing the second game, we exploited the fact that we were playing a back three. By pushing pushing Mullen and Easton up into that gap between their wing backs and their centre halves. We didn't do that first game. So I don't know, maybe Ross County had different tactics when they played Aberdeen, I don't know. But it looked as though we were sold up when we read the report and how we set up that first game. And I think that cost us. But without a shadow of a doubt, Ross County are a better team. I listened to all these debates about playoffs and their structure towards the team in the Premier League. I think the amount of times the Premier League teams got through is because they're a better team. Plain and simple. I don't know. I get the thoughts behind you finish second, you should go up. You finish second, bottom, you should go down. But fundamentally, they're better teams. In my opinion, better players, more streetwise, faster, slicker, play better, and
5 inches taller.
they're just better. And I know you said nobody went mental on Sunday, and I think there was the realisation that actually they're better than us. Yeah, we tried. We did our best. We didn't go, and we didn't go at, I would have said at half-time we came out for it, but we didn't see much at half-time until they scored. But essentially, we then threw caution at the wind and went, right, these guys have come a long way to watch us, let's try and get a goal. And I don't think, had that been a league game, for example, we wouldn't have lost 4-0. We'd probably shut up shop and gone, let's just get down the road at 2-0. But we actually went for it. And fair play for doing that. But yeah, fundamentally, I just think they were better than us. Plain and simple.
Yeah. Callum, to what extent do you think the timing of the goals was, I was going to say crucial, maybe it wouldn't have been given the end result anyway, but I've turned that around. Do you think the timing of the goals was particularly cruel in really stopping the Rovers from kind of getting a foothold at any point?
Probably just the second one. I feel like it's like if you go in and you're 1-0 down, you still have a chance of coming back. Like, even if you win the game 2-1, you still don't go up. But we won one of the playoff games, Actually, no, if we'd won by a goal, then it would have gone to extra time. Ignore that. But it's like if we do, it's like if we're 1-0 down, that's salvageable. But then to concede 2 minutes into the second half, it was like it's like when that went in, it's like, well, fuck. It's like with the tactics, though, it's like I think the difference between Sunday and the first leg is the fact that Sunday was the last game of the season. And so I think with the game on Thursday, I think the reason why, it's like we saw in the second half when we brought on Josh Mullen and Dylan Easton, we were a lot better when we started to go at them. But I think they might have still been coming back from injury, maybe not quite 100% fit. And I think it's like, if it's like losing and going into what is the final game of the season, just chuck everything at it, just go all in. I think that's why it was different.
So I think there's two things for me in that. One, as I say, in terms of the timing, I do think there's an underlying fragility to Ross County, and we never saw it. We never got to see it. And I think that's where to go to kind of your sliding doors moments. Aidan Connolly has that shot that goes just past the post in the first leg.
Josh Mullen as well.
Well, you get the Josh Mullen one later on, yeah, but the Connolly one's at 0-0. I think if that goes in, given how well they played in the first half, you think, how do you have to react to that mentally? But then they get the penalty.
You might have won 4-0 instead.
but I mean, I don't think we would have won 4-0, but it puts Ross County effectively, and it was as a result of their own efforts, but they effectively kind of had it all their own way, almost. From the minute they got the penalty, they were always ahead in the tie. And that's where, like we said all along, we said before the first game, Ross County can be very good and they can be very bad. They have a collapse in them, they have a fragility to them, but we just never quite got to see it. And as it felt like just at the point where you think, actually, we're building up a little bit of a head of steam here. They scored a bloody goal again. You're like, Jesus Christ. And that's where, I think the first one, as you see on Sunday, more or less comes out of nowhere. I think it's a better goal than I kind of gave it credit for at the time. I thought the winger kind of stumbled over it and they just kind of stuck it in the middle, but it's a very good cross and it's a very good run. It's a kind of goal a striker who's scored 23 goals in the season scores. This is all about the movement ahead of it. And then, you get to half time and you think, well, if we could score a goal here, this could change. We've had chances. We had decent chances at the end of that half. And then whatever Ian Murray spent 15 minutes saying, just goes right in the window. And I know I said it slightly tongue-in-cheek there about them being, 5 inches taller than us. But I think when you look at the 2 goals we conceded from corners, that is, as much as anything, well, sorry, it's 2 things. The quality and the delivery from Danda is excellent, really is. But also, you stand that county team up man for man against the Rovers team. And after about 3 or 4, it looks like one of those lineups where the mascots stand in front of the players with the height of some of these guys. Because it really is a case of, you're doing man marking at set pieces. You're like, right, okay, you and Murray, you can take Simon Murray. Dylan Corr, right, you can take the boy Nightingale. And you're kind of looking around to be like, right, okay, who else in this Rover side wins headers? Right, Dicko, not necessarily number 1 on the list, but you can do it. Right, okay, well, Christ, Jordan White's still here. You can have Jordan White. And then after that, you're like, Scott Brown, still quite okay, great. You can have this boy Leak, he's 6'5". And then after that, you've run out of headers, and they've still got a centre half unaccounted for. Like, it's just that was always going to be a fatal weakness, I think.
There's probably something as well from set pieces with not playing with VAR. We were very timid defending a free kick or a corner. We were very, very timid in the box. Ross County were very hands-on, right?
Yeah.
Multiple keepers getting blocked, multiple jerseys getting pulled, all that sort of thing. And we seemed, pardon my French, shit scared to do that in case VAR came up. And I think that's probably the only time I would say there was a VAR or playing with VAR as an advantage, because you've obviously played with it all season, you know how far to go. Whereas it was a case of like, well, wait a minute, I can't do that to you. You can do it to me because VAR will catch it and we'll be all right. But I'm not doing it to you just in case. And that kind of struck me, especially especially the game up there, because I think you were close. You're a lot closer to the pitch and you can see it at set pieces. And it certainly struck me that that's what I would say the street wisdom was that they were showing.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. Carol, at what point on Sunday afternoon did your optimism disappear completely? Was it the second goal, or did it hang on any later than that?
It was the second goal, and it was it the second or the third? But no, what changed me was Louis Vaughan. His shoulders went for up and a minute, and you just seen them roll back and drop, and he realised this was done. And it took a good 5-10 minutes for him to get that. Actually, do you know what? I'm doing this for the fans, and the shoulders come back up. When I seen the shoulders drop of the players, and I don't know if that was the second or the third, because the second goal went in 2 minutes. You could still get back to 2-2, have a draw on the tie. You've shown face, and you've shown that you're a good team. But it was just that shoulder drop, and you just seen it go, and it was chucking it down with rain. But there was a millisecond of silence from the Rovers fans, and then they went, "Feck this, we're out for a day out. We're going to have you. If we're not having you on the pitch, we're having you off the pitch." And yeah, that was it. It was just a little 5 minutes of, oh, this is going to be a rough half, and then they just went, like Graeme said, they just went all for it for a goal. And I think that's what disappointed some of them more at the end, was that we didn't get a goal for them. Obviously, the playoffs a big disappointment, but you just see that's what they wanted.
Yeah, and Graeme, obviously the kind of away end in yellow idea came from you originally. That must have been a slightly surreal moment, I suppose, and you kind of had a look around on Sunday afternoon.
It was really weird. It was Sunday morning. We went up, because obviously travelling from Ayr to Dingwall in a day is not very clever if you're going back again. So we went up and stayed over Saturday night in Inverness, and it was up on Sunday morning, and it's just looking at social media, and the amount of people in yellow was just mental. And then driving into Dingwall, I came up, normally just go with my son, my wife and my daughter came up as well, and we just walked along Dingwall High Street, and just the amount of yellow as well. Unbelievable. It's amazing how such a simple idea could be caught on by so many people, and it looked amazing. It looks fantastic. On the TV, it looks absolutely amazing. Brilliant. Although I was slagged off by another member of this podcast because my T-shirt wasn't as bright yellow as everybody else's. But yeah, it was fantastic. Just a good thing to get behind, a good reason to do it because it's the last day. And yeah, the only damp thing in the sort of colourless thing was maybe our display a wee bit. But yeah, it was mental. That's my one good idea for the generation, I think.
Yeah, the display wasn't the only damp thing. I was also quite damp, but certainly by the time I got back to the car. I think that in itself slightly dulled things, because there were too many people, and me included, had a jacket on because it was chucking it down, and to figure out I had a yellow jacket. But I think that would have been even bolder had the sun been out. But I think it's testament to the kind of the way that the season has gone and the atmosphere, if that's the right word, that's been sort of cultivated around the football club. I mean, winning obviously is a huge part. Winning is probably the biggest part of it. But it is also that kind of deliberate involvement from the top of the football club down to get everybody involved and get everybody on the same page and get everybody talking about the same stuff and laughing at the same patter and all that kind of stuff, so that when you get to the business end and you go, right, everybody, we've been on all this together, let's pick up this idea and run with it, and everybody grabbed onto it.
I think it's not just because it's gone down through the club, it's also gone down and out through the community. It's not just come from the top down through the club, it's like spread out. Like the videos with the school kids, with the businesses and stuff, it's just rippled out slowly.
Yeah,
I think that's been a big difference.
It feels like the way I think you would want it to feel. You know, there's that. I think a lot of the time, there's football clubs, and the Rovers have done it in the past, absolutely, as well, and will do again at some point in the future, you just say things like, we're all in this together, and you can put it on Twitter and you know, enough people will like it and stuff, but it doesn't actually really go beyond that.
Well,
And
but
actually, I mean, yeah, I mean, not to take away from this at all, but the original, you know, sort of iteration of this idea was that game at Dens Park where the Rovers were the red away kit, so the away fans were in red. But it wasn't anywhere near the same degree as that was just then. Actually, my dad said that when we were talking about it before the game, when he was like, we were at that game. He said, I don't really, doesn't stand out to me as like everyone was in red. Like I vaguely remember it was a thing, but like I don't think in whatever 5 years' time or anything you'd be able to think about that game from Sunday without going, oh, the yellow game, because everybody bought into it. Like it was so obviously the yellow game, and everybody bought in. And I think that's really credit to the feeling that is around the football club, that people are prepared to do, well, just don't get me wrong, slightly daft stuff because it's a Rovers thing that weekend. Like if that's not there, especially yellow as well, like you have to have that. There has to be belief to get that buy-in. You know,
if like the daftness of getting up at 2:30 on Saturday morning to fly to Edinburgh after booking a flight on the Thursday and then spending all day yesterday travelling via Cologne to get back, because that's what you do with your weekend.
Exactly. And listen, Carol, just to put that on record, fair play for doing that, because I know that wasn't like, not like these Johnny come latelys like Scott, who was getting some credit for doing it, but frankly was coming over anyway. That was, when was it you decided to make the, bear in mind kickoff was noon on Sunday. When was it you actually had the decision to make that flight?
I booked the flights at 5 o'clock Thursday. I was going to wait till half time, because like if I was like, before all done at half time, I'm going to make the executive financial decision that this is a stupid idea. But yeah, no, at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock Thursday, there was a €30 flight on Ryanair for 6 o'clock on Saturday morning. And thanks to everyone at Wraith Rovers who put me up, got me a lift, got me a ticket. I got messages from, Laura in the office messaged me, oh, we've got you a space on the bus and a ticket if you want it. And that was the idea planted Tuesday afternoon. I moped around the house, supposedly on Wednesday, according to my boyfriend, just going, oh, I want to go to the football. And then on Thursday, I went, feck it, why not? Even if we get humped, it's a good day out and it's a good story. So yeah, I think it was 50 hours, over 6,000 kilometres, a lot of sitting, a lot of travel sickness pills, and it was. I wouldn't change it for the world. It was a once in a lifetime experience.
That's what I was going to ask. Was it a good day out?
Oh, amazing! Absolutely amazing. Going up from Kirkcaldy and passing all the buses and looking, have they got yellow? Is that car got yellow? It was spot the yellow shirt all the way up, in between dozing. I left Scotland nearly 18 years ago. I'd not been in the Highlands since. I forgot how beautiful it was. Just driving up, having a mega laugh at Inverness Caledonian Thistle's ripped up pitch on the way back down. Was a nice little high point, because maybe they're without a pitch and players. They could be at Kelty Hearts forever. It was an amazing day out, and the atmosphere. So my ticket was right next to the singing section, like right up the back, with the tiny kids and the weirdos and the ones in costumes dressed as bananas. And I went, you know what, I'm going in. And I went along, and I was in this yellow vest because I bought this before I bought my flights, because I was expecting to be on my terrace on Sunday watching this, not in Dingwall, in 5 layers as I walked up to the ground, and then arrived and went, stiff this, I'm taking it off, I'm going in yellow. Didn't really feel the cold until the second half, where I put my jacket on but didn't do it up, so you could still see the yellow. And yeah, no, it was amazing, absolutely amazing. I was exhausted when I got home last night. Disappointed in Cologne, nothing about the Euros in the airport. Was fully expecting to get a load of merchandise when I arrived there. Absolutely bozo. Disappointed. But yeah, well worth it. Definitely, anytime if you're abroad and you need to fly to go and see your team, do it. I highly recommend it.
Via Cologne.
Maybe.
Actually, you're certainly hardier than me when it comes to the weather, because my thought process was exactly the opposite. So I had a yellow jumper on, And I thought, if at any point we're in this game, I will take it off and I'll be just in my Yellow Rovers jersey. And no, I started and finished that game with my jacket on. But I do know what you mean with going up the road as well, because we stopped at Dalwhinnie and a kind of pub, cafe place. Like, so I'm just going to like chuck my jacket on, because it's like you don't always like going into places with a football jersey on. Some places aren't, kind of great about it. So I thought I'll stick my jacket on before we go in here. Went in and just 40 Rovers fans, all of them in bright yellow. So, this is
we
fine.
stopped at the Newtonmore truck stop and ended up ringing to Wraith TV and a load of other Rover supporters and some random cyclists from Belgium who turned up in yellow cycling tops, and just everyone going, is there a football game on? Oh yeah, there's Wraith Rovers. And yeah, because we went in with like the jackets on and then ran into Davey from Wraith TV, and yeah, we were all in yellow. And we did a group photo, and it was like you could spot the idiot that was from Spain in the vest, because everybody else was in like t-shirts, long sleeve and jumpers, and I'm like, yay! So yeah, no, it was an absolutely amazing day. The result, c'est la vie.
It must have been a good buzz, because you could feel it, right? I'm based in here, and you could feel it here, and through everything you can kind of get the buzz, but it must have been some buzz in Kirkcaldy as well, through the week and through Thursday, Friday, just the build-up as well, because of the output the club was putting in there, as you said, the videos and everything. I nearly bought a stupid yellow top hat out of House of Brewer and shot it at the last minute. Photos are available, people, if anybody wants to see that, which would have been fantastic. And I think the phrase was, if we could win and get that hat on the showman in the middle of the park, Dylan Easton would have loved that, I'm quite sure. But the buzz must have been great, because every time you put your social media on, there was folk on buses, going buses, looking for tickets and all this sort of thing. So it must have been, to have been in Kirkcaldy those couple of days must have been amazing.
Yeah, it's like it was like the whole week, it was basically just like game day, wins a game. And it's like Thursday happens. I know it's like, obviously we've lost, a bit of disappointment, go to the pub, chat with your mates, and then it's like, go to bed, wake up Friday. Fuck, it's not Sunday. I was like, on the way down, I was just thinking to myself, oh, that's the season over. We got a month with no football.
Challenge draw for the Challenge Cup, League Cup's tomorrow.
League Cup tomorrow, even though it's not for another month.
The first competitive game is the 12th of July or something. Who says we don't have summer football? I'm not even finished up for summer holidays, and I'm a teacher. Yeah, not for kids, only adults. Do not teach kids. Do not teach kids. Never. Oh, God.
You wouldn't think it was summer, though. The winter rain we've had the last couple of days. But anyway, I'll tell you what, let's take this point, because this originally was going to have to be just a fairly morose 4-0 podcast review. And then our old friends at Wraith Rovers Football Club pop up on a Tuesday night, 7:20, give us a new signing for the season. We've not even had the list to tell us who's out the door for the last season yet. But we're welcoming Callum Fordyce from Airdrie, assistant manager at Airdrie. And his cousin was the manager. So don't know what's happened there. Won't speculate. Delighted to have him. Callum, give me your thoughts on the arrival of Callum. Is it Callum Fordyce or Callum Fordyce? How are we saying this? More Fordyce?
Fordyce.
Okay.
Well, clearly he's... the Rovers put up on Twitter about how he's like the third in a whole bunch of things when it came to the championship. There's like stats graphs out there, but he is one of the best defenders in the championship. I didn't know that at all. I just saw the raging Airdrie fans. I thought, aye, that's a great signing.
Always a good judge, to be fair. An excellent barometer.
If you sign a player and the team that he was just at, if they have their fans in the comments raging at him because he's left them, you've done a good signing. Because clearly there is something about him.
Yeah, there's an Airdrie supporter on Airdrie account on Twitter. It's called RSM Stats. And they've on these kind of pinwheel things, which I'll even give Robbie to retweet. Because it's a good kind of glimpse. And it basically it's kind of remarkably positive looking. For a guy who, to the naked eye, I would have said, good championship defender, and then ticking a lot of boxes as well. Like, good age, a lot of experience, very little on the injury front. Played 46 games in all competitions last season.
6 foot? Is he taller than 6 foot?
Is he
Please
wider
hold.
than 30 centimetres?
Is he a giant?
Yes.
He's big enough. I was just looking to see if his transfer market page that I had open had his height on it, but it doesn't. But ticking a lot of these boxes. Very, very good kind of on the ball and in the air, which is basically what you want. Those are the two kind of on the ground and in the air. Those are your two states. So I'm really quite pleased about this one. Graeme, what were your initial thoughts when you saw that pop up?
I think it's quite interesting. We waited to the end of the game on Sunday. My daughter wanted a photo with Big Kev, so we had to wait. And that coming out, Andrew Barman was coming out, and he did say, "We go again Monday. We'll rebuild on Monday." So a day late, we'll let him off for that. But I think they already said as well. Ian Murray, etc., already said they know where we've fallen short. And I think a centre half that doesn't get injured, it's a godsend to us.
I think we just need to caveat that to say he hasn't been injured. He is now a Rovers player. So
let's go back a stage. I can remember us signing a guy who played for Dundee, Crystal Palace, Dundee United, called Ian Philp. We signed Ian Philp when he had a broken leg. We also, with Anelka, signed Jules Timbach, whatever, who kept breaking his arms a bit like Venus de Milo. So we've a history of signing injured players. So if a player gets injured once he signs for us, it's not so bad, I suppose.
But Lee Ashcroft, do you know?
Aye. If it lasts longer than that, we're doing all right, I suppose. It's what we need, right? We need a centre half. We need a centre half that's not going to fuck about. Yeah.
I'm really, really quite pleased with this one. I just think it's just as ticking all the boxes for me. Good experience, but again, like a really good age. I think we were talking about this coming back down the road from Inverness, where I think what you really want is to have 4 centre halves, basically. I don't know why I'm putting this on anyone else. I would like us to have 4 centre halves. And I would like Dylan Corr to be one of them, based on the evidence of what we've had, but effectively to be, the junior most of those. So you've got 4, Dylan Corr, Ewan Murray obviously is already there. And then you look for kind of 2 more, and really what I was thinking is someone to come in almost to be the equivalent of Ewan Murray. So you've got 2 guys who are basically, if you are both fit, you are first choice for the first day of the season. And then you've effectively got a third option who is, I don't know, somebody who's kind of in like their early to mid-20s, who's maybe been doing really well in League One. And you're asking them to step up. A bit like your man, George, he never signed for us, so I never learned his surname, Stanger or Stanger.
Stanger, the boy.
Stanger. So he'd been doing well at Alloa, so he was ready to step up to full-time. It was rumours he was coming to us, and he went to Ayr instead. I think somebody in that kind of mould. And it's the kind of thing that's like, there was rumours about Paul Hanlon. So if you're like Paul Hanlon and Ewan Murray, then a kind of younger guy, and then also Dylan Corr, who we've seen can kind of hold his own at championship level, but still has time to go. I'm absolutely delighted that the season ended 2 days ago, and you've basically already got in Ewan Murray and in Callum Fordyce, like first pick championship centre halves. Like I just think that's, in terms of who's available, who's a known quantity. I don't know. I certainly can't think of anyone who's a better option who's out there. You're talking about, championship, top half, maybe premiership bottom half, out of contract, no recent injury history, all that kind of stuff. I just don't see there's anyone out there. That's a better signing than I think we could have reasonably expected, a week ago when he was Airdrie's assistant manager. So I'm very, very pleased with that. I think some of us will certainly be back at some point, and we'll do a kind of squad review, certainly once we've had the kind of retained released list. But Callum Carol, for you, is that picking, or kind of fixing one of the, as Graeme says, one of the key areas that Ian Murray probably knew he had to address, and what do you think's kind of next on the priority list after having secured a decent centre half?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we've been talking about all season. Scott Brown should not be back there. He should not be back there all the time. It's not where he should be playing. He needs to be further up the park and doing what he does. I know. I mean, the question I put on the chat earlier is, what do we need to be doing more off the pitch? But I think that really depends on structure, etc. But the positive, I think, is that we're hitting the ground running. We've realised that there is a problem in our defence, that we were really pushing for clean sheets at the end, but if you can stop the ball getting to the goal and you don't lose a goal, then you don't lose the game. And that's what we need to be doing next season. It's going to be a tough league. It's going to be one where the drop points are essential. If you're not losing a game, if you're not losing a goal, you're not losing the game. I mean, I know it's cliche and basics, but I think that's effectively what we've got to fix. We were scoring last-minute goals at the start of last season, and that was fantastic. But we were coming from behind. If we're not coming from behind and still scoring those goals, it's fantastic, but we're not ending up with that massive goal difference. So I can't think of any other positions off the top of my head where we really need to fill, but we were a bit leaky. We're playing players out of position, even though they're doing fantastic. I also think Ross Matthews needs to move further up. He is lightning if he's let loose from the middle. Yeah, I think sorting out the back four is going to help further up. It's just going to nudge a little bit of quality further out. Instead of having to get people out of position, we're going to have that quality further up the park.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Definitely going to be interesting to see not only who comes in, but the pace at which they come in, if that makes sense. And in terms of this season's squad was built, and it's been the majority, really quite early on. We did very good business very early, but that was on the back of being the only side that knew where they were going to be playing, going into the last day. So we did have a jump on the rest of the division, which obviously is the opposite this time around. We are the very last to know. So it'll be interesting to see just how much groundwork that kind of John Potter and the guys have been able to do. But as I say, literally 2 days. I don't know if those guys got Monday off, but back at it with a signing to announce on the Tuesday is impressive, if nothing else. So there seem to be vague rumours hanging around that they didn't just get all the signing paperwork out for Callum Fordyce. I think the photocopier was involved as well, but actually no concrete information on that. That's just the vibe I get. So we'll wait and see. Fingers crossed. There's
I
more
think
to
there's
be
going
seen.
to be lots of weather changes in the next few weeks. We're going to have a lot of weather forecasts coming from Starts Park.
Yes, certainly hope so. Right, listen, as I said at the top of the show, this is the final episode of our sort of regular output. Our typical kind of preview/review format really falls apart when there aren't any games on. But don't think that you're short of us just yet. There will be, as I mentioned, sort of an overall review podcast for the season to come in the next week or so. Whether that ends up being part of the kind of squad discussion or whether that ends up being two separate pieces, I have no idea, but we will soon find out. And we've got a couple of other ideas lined up kind of over the summer as well, but there'll be one or two kind of sporadic bonus episodes, I think, popping up. So look out for those. But I think really just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who has joined us at any point over this season. I don't think it's possible for us to overstate, just how much we appreciate everybody who listens and watches. And we will be back, as I say, next season, and hopefully better than ever. So, as always, as I say, thank you and goodbye.